Alrighty, episode 3 of the Piggin Out Podcast is live. What's going on? Happy Tuesday to you guys. I'm Nate. That's my good old co-host Kevin Wilson here to my right. And Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and life is good here. We have some sun going on, and as I said to Vince when we did our show, shout outs to Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, and other places that were affected by the storms over the weekend, because that was pretty hairy. So if you were affected by this at all, our prayers and thoughts are out to you.
Definitely, these disasters are nothing to joke about as well. So prayers to those affected, and hopefully recovery is fast instead of
That's right. That's right.
sooner rather than later is what I should say.
That's right. Absolutely.
So we hopefully, for those of you watching, hopefully we can entertain you for the next 30 to 45 minutes covering the sports world over this past week. We had the NBA playoffs going on still. The first round slowly but surely coming to an end. A couple teams locked in their spot in the second round last night. We also will discuss some baseball talk, including the Oakland Athletics, who I'm very excited to talk about. They actually play tonight around 6 o'clock Pacific time, 8 Central. So excited to see them back in the Coliseum. And then we'll end it with some NFL draft talk because I tell you, there are some good picks, Kev. And then
there was some good picks, and there's some head scratchers, and we're here to cover it all. So
exactly. And Billy stops by. What's up, Billy? Says it was wild here in.
I thought about you, Billy, because I know you live in Iowa, and you were sending out messages and stuff. So I assumed everything was okay with you. Glad to see that you're with us.
Dang right, Billy, the man who started it all for us, paired us together for this show. So shout out to Billy. You're the man, sir. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this.
The legend, okay?
The legend himself. All right, Kev, shall we do this?
We shall.
Let's do it. All right, first oink. Presented by SeatGeek. Code BellyUpSports for $20 off your first order. I'm talking concerts, comedy shows, sporting events, baseball games, basketball playoff games as well. SeatGeek is the best place to get your tickets. Affordable prices, and they actually sort out which seats are good for the best price and which ones are not. So shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring our first segment, also known as the first oink. All right, Kev. So the NBA playoffs. I don't know where you want to start in terms of the matchups that you want to talk about first, but I think it's best if we just get it out, get the elephant or address the elephant in the room. Okay. I had my dinner last night, Kevin.
Okay.
And afterwards, I was like, I'm gonna go watch the Lakers game, and I watched like the end of the first all the way to the fourth, and it was a great game until it wasn't.
That's right.
Jamal Murray on a messed up calf played 40 minutes plus and beat us on a last second shot. Well, with 3 seconds left, but you get the drift. And the Lakers are out in 5 games. I would love to rant about it myself, but I'm not going to do that. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on this series that unfortunately has ended for the Lakers?
Well, the thing that you have to think about, to me, if you're a Lakers fan, which I do not claim to be that, but if you were, what do the Lakers do going forward now? And I read your article. It was a great article. And so what do they do with the coach? Okay. What do they do? Does LeBron James, does he stay? Does he retire? Does he demand, hey, you better draft my son or else I'm not going to play? Or just what's going to happen? Because the Lakers, they're in danger of being in that little spot where you're good enough to make the playoffs or the play-in, as the case may be, but you're not really relevant. And LA cannot stand being just relevant. And they're not bad enough where they can get a high enough draft pick to get anybody that makes any difference in their team. So I know you're the Lakers guy. So what would you suggest? And I know you put this in your article, so you can just kind of give us the overall on that. What would you do if you're the general manager?
100%. Thank you for reading that, Kevin, the article. I appreciate that. So
I read good stuff. Okay, I read good stuff.
right back at you with the fantasy baseball stuff discuss in our next segment. But I will say this: I know the obvious answer is fire the coach. That's 100% clear. Darvin Ham. It's just there's been so much discourse and tension between Darvin Ham and the players. I don't have the video on me, but there was a clip of Austin Reeves, the shooting guard for the Lakers. Instead of consoling the head coach, he was talking with Phil Handy, the assistant coach, about this particular play, whatever the case may be. So that just shows one example of how the guys may not respect Ham as much as they should, because Ham, he just is not the coach for the Lakers. We saw that last year when they got swept, and it was like, okay, maybe he isn't the guy, but we'll try again for one more year. They're not going to fire him. We saw it this year. LeBron and AD, they don't really respect him that much. And it's to the point where it's like, okay, just fire the coach. Fine. You hire someone else, or you promote Phil Handy, the assistant, to be the permanent head coach, which will be perfectly fine with me. But that's not all that needs to be fixed. And it's the easy thing to say is to let LeBron go, to let Anthony Davis go, and just rebuild completely, because it's been the same roster for 2 years now, and things have gotten nowhere.
That's very true. And I was thinking about this particular aspect because both LeBron James and AD played in more than 70 games this year, which neither of them have done in like 6 years. So expecting, especially with LeBron, seeing as how he's 40 and everything, expecting him to play 70 games, you can't expect that. Maybe AD because he's younger.
Yep.
But that hasn't been his MO, and he gets hurt and everything else. So I could see the argument of LeBron, I'll see you later. But AD, I think, still has some value. You need to pair him with somebody that's younger, and if they can peel out of LeBron's contract, maybe they can, because they're the Lakers. So anybody that they decide to go after, because it's happened over since the 50s, 60s, whatever, with Kareem and going forward all the way, Shaq and everything else. So that's what I think. They cannot expect these two guys to play 70 more games next year. They just can't. So they need to figure out something to shake things up one way or another. So because they're in danger, this is really the danger when you're the Lakers, that you become less relevant than the Clippers. That's a huge problem for them. In your own city, you're less, because the Clippers have always been the redheaded stepchild of the Lakers. And if you're you can't have that. You can't stand that. So they need to do something.
Kevin, I could go on and on and say, okay, this player needs to go. We should trade for this guy and that guy and come up with a bunch of packages. Instead of doing that, because I know we have other series to cover too, I think just to give you a 1-sentence solution, just get younger. That's it.
That's right.
Look at the Thunder, right? They're young.
That's right. Get young. And that's the other thing too, because the Thunder are young. The Minnesota is young, right? Denver, it's not going away. So the West is a problem for the Lakers. It really is. So the best they can hope for is to maybe fight for the 6th seed, and that's what you're going to do. If you're the Lakers, that's not good enough.
Just to get younger and get more depth. We saw what Denver did, right? With their homegrown talent and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, and just we've seen these teams that are succeeding right now in the playoffs. Like we just talked about, they're younger, they have depth, they play together. There's no discourse between the coach and the players. The Lakers have been stuck with that situation for 2 years now. That's why in 2024, whether you bring LeBron back or not, whether you bring AD, either you keep AD or trade him, just some way, somehow, this has to be fixed if they want to, advance past the first round. Even though they made the conference championship last year. They got swept by Denver. So just regardless, though, it's
That's right.
okay.
That's not the only series out there.
Exactly.
And
Shout
the
out to
most,
Denver, by the way. They
that's
heck of a
right.
series.
Denver, they know how to get things done in
Oh,
Denver.
yes, sir.
And so, but the most surprising, maybe the most surprising thing that happened all weekend
Uh-huh.
is, we're going to talk about Michael Penix in a little bit. And
Woo.
that was a surprise. But the most surprising thing to me is how the Phoenix Suns got knuckled under by the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes, sir.
And because they played each other just before the end of the regular season, Phoenix won the game, and that's what gave them the 6th seed in the conference. And so I thought, okay, Minnesota's green. And so Phoenix, their veteran team, of course, they can give Minnesota, all they can handle. Well, not so much. It was kind of like an old Pinto that's just pushed off to the side of the road and forgotten, and now it's got weeds growing over the top of it. And so that's exactly what happened to Phoenix. And unlike the Lakers, they can't make moves because they have so much money. They're over the cap and all their taxes they have to pay because of that and everything else. They can't make moves. And as we talked about before we came on live, the super team concept, unless you're Miami, for those few years, does not work. And so they're stuck. Phoenix is stuck being mediocre, and that's all they're going to be.
And you mentioned, Kev, what's bad is that you would think, like, okay, the Suns have draft picks. They don't have any first rounders for the next 6 years. Okay. These
Right?
these 6 years are gonna be terrible from a trading aspect. And you would think, okay, maybe they don't have picks. Maybe they can get rid of Bradley Beal, right? Because he was out of the 3 guys, he was not that great.
Yeah.
No, he actually, if I'm not mistaken, did not. He's not going to waive his no trade clause.
And that's fine. I don't know why in the world you'd give Bradley Beal a no trade clause to begin with, but they did. Somebody did. And so now you have to live with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it's kind of like, I guess, like, I don't know if you've ever had Alka-Seltzer.
I have not.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good. You're fortunate because that stuff is absolutely nasty. You have Alka-Seltzer in your mouth and it's burning your throat and you can't possibly spit it out fast enough. And so that's what's going on with Phoenix. You want to be able to, get rid of what you've got. You can't do it fast enough, but then you're looking around, there's no sink. You know what I'm saying? So it's bad. It's bad for Phoenix. And unlike, because the Lakers, there are a lot of Laker haters. And, and I understand. But who hates Phoenix? I don't know. I mean, they're kind
No
of
one
they're
really.
a team that you're kind of about. I've always been about the Phoenix Suns. So they need to be grabbing headlines, but they're not going to be able to do any of that going forward. So it's definitely, it's like going, Phoenix, it's 127 degrees, whatever, in the summertime. It's like you're going outside, you got no clothes. And so it's just unpleasant.
Yeah, Arizona is a calm place. It's a quiet place. It's cheaper compared to California. I would like to definitely move there one day if I had the choice. Unfortunately, that would not make me a Suns fan regardless. And who wants to be a fan of a team that is paying their 3 top guys and Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal $150 million guaranteed combined
Right.
next year?
And so you're looking for, somebody that you could give a parking space to. And here's a cold drink for you. And so, who's going to want to play there? Who can they afford, even if they did? So Phoenix, it's bad.
I think the same thing with the Lakers. The situations are similar in that the head coach is probably gone, and Frank Vogel. It seems like there's an issue with that. Maybe trade 1 or 2 of their stars and Booker and or Durant again. Who knows? I mean, I don't
When
know.
it comes to Durant, Has there ever been such a talented player that has done less with that talent? Throughout history. The only reason why he won a championship is because he joined the Warriors when they were a championship squad already. But before that, in Oklahoma City, they made the playoffs. That's all. He went to Brooklyn, and the whole team, the whole car, there was no tires on that car whatsoever. So then they come over to Phoenix, and he just can't. Basketball should be that sport where one guy can make a huge difference because there's only 5 of them to begin with. So he just hasn't. I talked about the Phoenix Suns, how you could be kind of about that, but Durant is a guy who can bring out the angst in you. He does that in me. He's not the ultimate team guy. So maybe he's the one that you need to move if you can.
Let me ask you this, Kevin. When Kevin Durant went to Golden State, who was the leader of that team? Steph Curry or Kevin Durant?
It was Steph.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. I was gonna ask you when he went to Brooklyn, was he the leader of that super team? Yes or no?
He should have been.
Okay.
But the car was being driven by Harden.
Okay. When he went to Phoenix, was he the leader of that super team?
No, he was not.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm saying. As talented as he is, he's got to be your one A guy. All right. Just like Michael Jordan back in the day. Didn't matter who was on the Bulls. They added Dennis Rodman. He was one A. And you were doing it Michael Jordan's way, or you were sitting on the bench pretty much.
Before we go into our next series, I just feel like Kevin Durant needs to be on a team where it's just him as a star and just have a bunch of just good supporting guys. Like you just mentioned, one A, just the main guy. No, none of this, Steph Curry or anything like that. Just the main guy.
Right.
So
what are you going to do there if you're Phoenix? Somebody needs to maybe lay hands on you and have a prayer. But other than that, it's over.
Fair enough. We'll go from Phoenix. We'll stick in the West Coast-ish before we go to the East Coast. Let's go with the Clippers and the Mavericks because, Kevin, quite a series this past weekend. Game 4 right. Especially.
That's right. And so if you're because you and I talked about the Mavericks, and they should be up 3-1 in this series, okay? But you cannot, I don't care who you are, cannot be down 31 points in the second quarter at home to anybody. Can't do it. They did it. And as every team that's been in a huge hole has almost ultimately found out, once you get clawed back in the game, you've got no energy to finish. So that's exactly what happened in that last game. They came back, actually took the lead, and then the Clippers had the kick at the end. So they can't be affording that. I still think that the Mavericks can win that series, but they lost a golden opportunity to be up 3-1. They still didn't have Kawhi in Game 4. And so you can't be down 31. You just can't. And so they need to focus in. They got an extra day to kind of think things out because they don't play till tomorrow. So if they lose Game 5, I think my confidence in the Mavericks is going to go way, way, way down.
I just thought the Mavs were going to pull it off. And the Clippers just closed the door. I mean, to be down 33 points and to come back the way you did was pretty impressive as it is.
33. Okay, I said 31, but yeah.
No. I think you're right. I'm just 30 plus is still a big margin.
Yeah. Especially at home. You cannot have that. And I've been to Maverick games. Okay, we have been to Maverick games, and it's the atmosphere they have there. They're completely in the Mavericks corner. So they had everything laid out for them to go up 3-1, and they were flat. You cannot have that. And so tomorrow is the key game. So they need to play like we know they're capable of playing. And it was some incredible number that Irving and Doncic were involved in like 97 points, one way or the other. And so the other guys need to step up, and that's the other thing as they were talking about before the series started. This is a deeper Mavericks team. Well, it's not showing up in the playoffs. So they need to show up and support that. They're 2 stars, especially because they're guards, and they need the big guys to get up there and get around the rim, get the the rebounds, block the shots, and play that interior defense. If they don't do that, it's not going to be pretty.
You made a great point when we did our pre-show, our show preparation, Kevin, that the Clippers won Game 4 without Kawhi Leonard. Do you feel like they should sit him out and just be careful with him and try to see? Because James Harden and Paul George, they both have stepped up in this series, especially in Game 4. They each put up 33 points. Do you feel like maybe just see how Game 5 goes without Leonard, or do you want to just risk it and see if
I always go back to what does the doctor say? If the doctor says he's healthy and play, you play him, and that's the end of that. And so, because if they lose Game 5, then okay, so we're going to put Kawhi in now, and we saw that in Game 2. Sometimes you put your guy in, and all of a sudden the chemistry that you had before that isn't there anymore. We saw that in Game 2. The chemistry was altered in the Clippers, and they did not win. So that's the concern right there. Get him in there, and if he can play. And, when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, that's always the question. Can he play? If he can, you run him, and he's a veteran, of course. He knows his body. If he says he can play, you play him.
Fair enough. 2 more series before we go to our next segment, Kevin. They're both these series are 3-1s. Knicks and Sixers. Are the Sixers going to come back, or will the Knicks seal it tonight and move on to the next round?
I don't know if they'll seal it tonight.
Okay.
But I think that the Knicks are going to win that series.
Fair enough.
I thought maybe the 76ers could win it. But once again, Embiid and Maxey, is that the only 2 guys that are on that team? And if that is the case, and what's going on in Philadelphia, where you're cheering for Brunson, calling him MVP, all right? And so that's a bad look. And when they came out, because we knew they were going to come out strong in Game 3 after what happened in Game 2. We knew that. But Game 4 was a pivotal game. They didn't show. I think the Knicks are going to win that series.
These New York fans, they just, wherever they may be, they just always show up. And that's clear with the Knicks. They showed up at Wells Fargo Center in Game 4. And I do think the Knicks will seal it tonight. Shout out to Jalen Brunson. He's so good. He is
so good.
So talented.
47?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, and the Knicks didn't even score 100 points. So that means the rest of your team gave you 50, and that's and he got 47 for you.
And he also helped me win part of my parlay. So shout out to Mr. Brunson for getting me my assist and rebounds. But that's a story for another day.
Okay.
As we shift to the Pacers and Bucks, Kev, we talked about it, I believe, last week, right, with the whole Giannis situation. It's over at this point.
It's over because tonight you have no Giannis, and not only that, but you don't have any Dame either, and so. Yeah, it's all over but the crying. And, I thought they showed something because they won Game 1. But the wheels have been off the car ever since then. And so when we get into the prop bet tonight, this is where I'm going to go for my prop bet, just to give a little shout out right there. But yeah, it's over with, and you could talk about an unmitigated disaster because they got rid of their coach, right? Who had a good record, bring in Mr. Rivers, and it was worse. It's been worse ever since then. And then there's been no continuity, even when the two of them were on the court. So this is bad for Milwaukee, and it might be one of those situations where they got their championship, kind of like Toronto, right? You got your championship, and so now move on.
100%. Yeah, it's unfortunate. If Giannis and Dame were healthy, the both of them, I feel like the Bucks would have moved on easily to the next round. But
But they're not.
Yeah, even when Giannis was gonna be out game 1 and game 2, that kind of just sealed their fate, because as good as Dame is, the Bucks had a disadvantage from the start. And
they did. They really did.
Yeah.
And so and that leads us into our fantasy question.
That is correct. Okay. What do you got for us, Kev?
Okay, so the question is, we're talking about Giannis, and we're talking about AD, and we're talking about Joel Embiid. Are these guys, because they've been at the top of the first round for a while now. So are you taking any of those guys in the first round of a draft next year?
Giannis for sure. I know the injury with recently, but when healthy, he's phenomenal. So I'm taking Embiid. Same thing. MVP numbers once again this year when healthy. So I'm banking on the health of Embiid and Giannis. Davis. In a 10-man draft, there's 10 guys better than him.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough, because I was thinking about this. And okay, so at the top of the draft, you've got Josic, of course, Wemby, right? SGA. You've got Anthony Edwards. You got Tatum, right? So that pushes all these guys to the back of the first round. So, and all these guys are young, right? Jason Tatum, not so young, but not old either. And all these guys that we play 70 games or more every year. And you said that you're going to bank on Joel Embiid's health. That's a rusty nail to grab onto, because he's going to be hurt at some point. And one of the leagues that I'm in fantasy basketball, somebody actually dropped him because he missed a month or whatever, how long it was. And so I picked him up and stashed him on my bench. And then he actually played well, but then he was gone. So you have to, if you're at the end of the first round, you might get yourself a bonanza because you get Giannis or one of those guys. But if you're at the top of the draft, don't even think about any of these guys.
Because there's just so many better options out there. There's guys that
and they're younger. They're like Anthony Edwards. I took him 5th overall in my draft.
Okay.
And he's right there for the MVP. And so he's going to be top 5. SGA is going to be top 5. And so Doncic, we didn't even mention him. So that's 6 guys right there that you're going to take over any of those in the first round. So just be aware of that. Don't get, I get Giannis, yay. Because this other league I was in, I got Giannis at the number 2 pick. And I was jazzed up. Then he was hurt. So just be aware of that.
Fair enough. I will say this though: if Davis can repeat what he did this season in terms of availability, he played 78 games, I believe. Then he's someone I would consider in the first round.
I would too.
Yeah,
because he's 32, and
that's
so
crazy. 32. Holy cow!
Yeah, because he's been with the Lakers. It's hard to believe it. How far long ago that was that he was doing his little, pity party in New Orleans, right? And
Fair
so,
enough. Yep.
But yeah, he did play in more than 70 games. I was surprised. I didn't think he played in that many, but I looked at his stats, and yes, he was in 70 games. He hadn't done that since 2018, I believe. okay, or 17. It's one of them two.
Yeah.
And so he could do it again. LeBron ain't happening, but he can do it. And so, but even then, back in the first round, AD, get back there.
Dang right. All right, Kev. That's it for our NBA segment. We're gonna shift from the court to the field. I'm talking baseball. Our second oink is presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Use the code BELLYUP for 50% off your order. Righteous Felon is a snack you gotta have in your pantry. Delicious beef jerky. Shout out to them for sponsoring this second segment of ours. And I tell you, I had very high expectations for my Oakland Athletics. I'm blessed that a good friend of mine introduced me to the A's a couple years ago. Took me to my first baseball game at the Coliseum, and I've been hooked on to them ever since. And yes, they had a bad year last year, very bad.
Yeah, you can extend that a few years if you want.
Yeah, but then this season, Kev, we got something going in Oakland.
Yeah, because they are in third.
Third place. The
Third place.
Astros and the Angels can just stick to the back of the bus.
That's right.
I'm not gonna cuss on this show, but man, these A's, Kev, come on.
Okay.
We got something going.
So you're speaking to a guy who, like you, has been to an Oakland A's game in person. Okay, and so I never counted myself as a fan of theirs. All right, but I've been there, and you gotta like the spunk, if you will, right? Because they got like 18 fans in the stands. So yes, you're one of them. All right, and who can you blame, because they're leaving anyway, and so you have to give it to the players. You have to, because they show up and play hard, and they've got some young guys, and I know there's one in particular that you want to talk about. So I'm going to give the floor to you.
All right. So, I mean, but first off, in all seriousness, the A's, the fact they're at 13 wins right now, they didn't reach 13 wins last year until June 6th. We are on April 30th, and they're already at 13 wins. So for those of you betting the under on the A's win total this year, yeah, you look foolish. I'm saying if I could have, because of the California laws, I would have bet a good amount on the over, and I would look pretty smart. But I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm just super excited about the A's because
that's okay if you are.
Yeah, it's just they made me proud so far. I mean, yeah, we got swept, opening week against Cleveland. Well, we almost got swept, and then we won the last game of the series. And we had a few winning streaks here and there, but recently, on this road trip was, I think, 10 games. The road trip was. We tied the series between the Yankees 2-2. We just beat Baltimore 3-1 in that series. We beat Pittsburgh last night, which is not saying much, but it's a win regardless. Against the Pirates. So, 13-7, 17 the A's are. Hitting wise, they're the worst in the league, which is bad, but pitching wise, that's
okay. Now this is where we can get really, really, really.
Yes, let's, Kevin. We'll start with the obvious guy, Alex Wood. No, I'm just playing. Mason Miller, the closer. The 100 miles per hour just fires that ball to the catcher Langoliers, and oh man, I'm telling you, he can fire that thing like no other, Kevin. I haven't seen a reliever like that in a minute. It's for the A's, and he's been dominant. I'll give you the floor as well in just a bit, but I just want to say this: for a guy who used to be a starter, came from a Division III school, was a starter last year for the A's. Unfortunately, an injury costed him a good amount of the season, came back as a reliever, and the A's were like, no, you're going to be our closer. First, I thought at first that wasn't going to work out. I was wrong, and he's been absolutely outstanding. but what are your thoughts on the A's
Okay,
pitching staff?
so you went with Mr. Miller. I would go with J.P. Sears.
Okay,
Okay,
I
all
like me
right.
some Sears.
Okay, and yeah, I'm a baseball guy. I'm a fan. Both of us are fan in a fantasy league, and I talked about J.P. Sears on Sunday as being a pitcher you want to add to your team. All right, because he's only at last I looked, it was at 5.6% rostered, and this is after he held down because the Yankees scored 15 runs, I believe, on the Milwaukee Brewers, Vince's Milwaukee Brewers. Okay, but J.P. Sears held them down. So
Held him down, Kevin.
held him down, and so I liked him last year. I like him this year. I like Mr. Miller. I'm not really a relief pitcher guy as far as fantasy is concerned, but if you are, you need to have because he goes out and 1, 2, 3, and he comes back in the dugout. So I like him a lot over there. Um, I'm not gonna get too sing praisey of the hitters, okay, but the pitching has been really good, and they've been much better than the Angels are done, okay, because it was just revealed that Mike Trout has a torn meniscus now, and so who else did they have on that team? Nobody. Houston, and they're embarrassing me because I thought they were going to win the AL West, but they're in last right now. Okay, so the Rangers and Seattle are going to be battling it out for that division. So it's not like Oakland is in the AL Central, and and I talked about Detroit and I talked about Kansas City before the season began to look out for them, but it's been Cleveland. They've got the best record in the American League, and so all three of those teams are quality teams. Then of course you've got the White Sox that started with 3 wins, and they swept Tampa, which goes to show what kind of problems they're having. But they're not in a tough division, so Oakland can make some hay. And I always like it when young teams can stand around and deliver the shots to the big boys. And I like how you stick up for your team because they are your team. Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
just like I'm a Dodger guy, and I've been that since I was a freshman in high school, so that's ingrained into my inner bone structure. And I know there's a lot of hate out there. A lot of people were like, "Well, if you're a Dodger fan, you can't be on my show." Okay, well that's fine. I'm a Dodger fan, and if you don't like it, that's just too bad. Okay,
Ooh,
and so you stay for your team. It's like
dang
I'm a
right.
Seahawk fan in
Dang
football,
right.
okay? And that's been going on for quite some time. And I was born in Utah, so that makes me so I have to be a Jazz guy because there's nothing else there. Well, now they've got the Utah, whatever the heck they're going to be. All right, the hockey team. But hey, you like who you like, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, I'm glad I joined the A's fandom not too long ago. That because they're kind of bad right now. But once they get to the top of the mountain, I can say I was there from the beginning. But just
So let me ask you this question.
of course.
All right, so because they're going to wind up in Las Vegas at some point. So would you make
Yeah.
the trek to Vegas to watch a baseball game?
I'll probably do once or twice, Kev. I don't know
You got to
about.
go to Vegas, don't you?
Yeah,
Just because it's Vegas.
that is true. I just Vegas doesn't speak to me like that, but
Okay,
I will do it for the A's.
okay. How far is Sacramento?
Sacramento is about give or take 45, 50 minutes from
Well, that's
from
also
home.
you can roll over to Sacramento and watch them play there. All
At,
right,
at
for a
Sutter
couple of
Health
years.
Park,
Okay,
the home of the
okay.
River Cats of the SF.
River Cats. Minor league baseball teams have some of the best names in the history of mankind. So, River Cats. Is there a river there that they come up with that? I'm just asking.
All I know is the Oakland A's, I think is a single A or double A. They're called the Stockton Ports. You tell me if that's an appealing name to you.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah,
There's some
see.
names that make you go, what in the world? But yeah, so like I said, you like your team, and so right, and so we want to tie together some fantasy on this show
Yes,
right here, and
correct.
I'm going to do this really quick.
Perfect.
Surprises can be good, as I talked about with Vince. All right, surprises might be on your birthday. Expect a tie and maybe get golf clubs. Okay, that's a good surprise. Okay, so the good surprises have been other than we just talked about J.P. Sears. That's Ronel Blanco, okay, of the Houston Astros. And we all know the story. $5,000 when he was at the car wash. Houston offered him, he signed, and all he did was pitch a no-hitter in his first game this year. And he's pitched
Ooh.
into the sixth inning in every start he's made, including this last weekend in Mexico, which is 8,000 feet in the air, whatever. And they were predicting they'd hit like 10 home runs or whatever. Didn't happen. So he's a good surprise. And if you added him, you're doing good. All right. And so, and one other guy that I talked about that I had high on my list, that's not a surprise to me, but art is to other people, and that's Salvador Perez, the catcher for the Kansas City Royals. I had him in my
Ah.
tier 2, and people are like, what are you, insane? Okay. But he's hitting 340. So there you have it. So I knew a little bit what I was talking about right there. And so, but then there's the bad surprises, like you expect golf clubs and maybe get all white underwear. So that's not happening. And so when we look at this, Ronald Acuna, okay, first overall pick, and he deserved to be, is hitting 255 with 1 home run and 6 RBIs. That's all he has. Okay. And so he's 49th ranked player in points in fantasy. Okay. And that's the number 1 pick in the draft. So not good. Okay. Not saying that you move away from Ronald Acuna. I'm not saying that. But it has been rough if you like him. So any other surprises in Miller that you like to bring up?
I could do a few Kev for you.
Okay.
In a league with you guys, it's very competitive. Definitely have to pay attention at times. A few surprises are for me. Luis Arraez, someone I drafted pretty early in the draft. I know last year he was pretty good from a hitting standpoint. I mean, he was a consistent hitter last year. This year, not as off to a fast start like last year, but hopefully it's surprising in that I expected him to be at the same level he was last year, and he wasn't. Hasn't shown that as much this year from a fantasy perspective. Colton Cowser, the outfielder for the Orioles, I picked him up recently. He's been pretty good himself on a little power streak, if I'm not mistaken. But if I could, couple athletics stand out to me from a fantasy perspective outside of Mason Miller. Lucas
Okay.
Erceg, the setup man for the A's. He's been quietly doing his thing. If he's out there in your fantasy leagues, maybe consider him. Not trying to be biased, but he has been pretty good. I wouldn't trust any starter other than Paul Blackburn for the A's and Sears from a fantasy standpoint. Alex Wood and Ross Stripling have been inconsistent. So was Joe Boyle, who, let's be honest, me and you, Kevin, we don't really know about Joe Boyle that much, but
No.
we're just gonna leave it at that. But other than that, and then Ranger Suarez. I'm
Okay.
also part Phillies fan. He's been, holy crap, Kevin, he's been phenomenal. But other than that, I think that will do it for the baseball side.
Okay.
And I've waited
So
for this segment
just
for a while.
right, we're talking about fantasy baseball. So Sundays at 7 p.m. Central, Vince and I, the fantasy baseball show. You want to be here for that.
Because if you're not, you're gonna miss some valuable information.
That's right.
Myself, I tune in because I like to get tips from you guys so I can beat you to it. But
And
Just
I noticed that because there were some guys that I talked about, and I signed off the show, and then all of a sudden I get the notice, bam, he's no longer available. I'm like, man, I just closed my mouth about that. So
it's because of me.
that's right. So, sometimes it's a detriment to do a show like that because you put out your kind of lay your soul, your strategy soul a little bit. But but I'm also doing that so other people can benefit from it. So I do that and I enjoy doing that.
I'll admit, Kevin. See, I do it because I know most of the guys in the league are on the East Coast. So when everyone's asleep, Kevin,
I've seen you
I'm
do that.
yeah,
I
that's
have.
me. That's me
That's right.
staying up late to make those fantasy moves. That is me, sir. While it's 2 or 3 in the morning on the East Coast, I'm up over here making fantasy moves, picking up players, looking at guys who have been added a lot by other people, and just doing my thing, Kevin. So I'm just
I've
trying to keep
seen
up with
that.
you
What
guys.
was
I
that?
tell you.
Was that yesterday? I woke up and there was something that you did. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, how in the world are you up this late at night? But you were, so do what you got to do.
I got my phone here. If you don't mind, I'm checking my phone and see what did I do at 1 in the morning. Here we go. 3:42 in the morning. I added
Okay.
Brian Hayes.
Okay, I'm with you on Brian Hayes. As long as you don't start to talk about O'Neal Cruz, because that would
We
go
will
in a
not.
totally
I
different
promise we
direction.
won't do that. I promise
Okay.
we're not going to
Okay.
do that. As we shift towards our third and final segment, that third oink presented by Yeet Sunglasses. Outstanding glasses, affordable. They look like Oakley, but they're so much better for the price and the design and the material. So shout out to them for sponsoring this segment. Use the code BELLYUP for 10% off your order. So the NFL draft happened this weekend.
It did. It just happened to happen. Sure.
Yeah. The first 7 picks were normal.
Right. Especially the first 4 were chalk, if you will. And then it was kind of surprising the Chargers went with Alt. But
And then Giants got
and then
Neighbors.
your Giants. So,
Yes,
we didn't have to worry about centering you on that one. So, and I thought that was the correct decision. Okay. Even though there were some writers in the Dallas Morning News who said that the Giants should have taken a quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not going to get into that. But so I thought that was a good pick. Tennessee went with their since they were attached to Alt pretty much the entire process, but Chargers beat them to it. But they've got their offensive tackle, and then comes Atlanta. Okay.
Yep.
And so I've heard this discussed in just about every possible way, and I think that the main reason why that people are upset about this is the wrong reason why they should be upset about it.
Elaborate,
And
my good
so
sir.
to explain, because people were pointing out, well, okay, people were saying, well, he's 24 years old,
Correct.
right? He'll be 26 when he gets to be the starter, let's just say. Okay. But if he plays and he's a good quarterback for Atlanta for 6 years, are they going to really hear how old he is? That was the wrong reason to criticize that selection to me. They should have criticized it because they could have, everybody that wasn't in a coma knew that Minnesota wanted to trade up. Everybody knew it. They weren't able to trade into the top 5. And so they should have duped, okay, Minnesota into trading up to that number 8 pick. They weren't going to take him. They wanted JJ. Everybody knew they wanted him. They should have figured out a way so they could trade back to number 11, get another pick, and then go ahead and take Michael Penix if that's what they wanted to do. And so that's where I criticize them. Taking him at number 8 made 0 sense to me.
I don't understand. You don't sign a guy for $100 million guaranteed just for him And I don't care what the GM says, however you pronounce his last name. He sounds French.
I'm not going there. I'm not doing that.
We're not
Okay,
doing that.
we're not doing that. Okay. If you want to email the show and let us know how to do that, that's fine. Because we know you like to watch the show. We know he's a fan. But yeah, so we're not going to try that here.
So it's just like, okay, so he says, okay, Kirk Cousins won't he will not have to watch behind his back, because he's going to be the guy, and Michael Penix will sit behind him. Listen, let's not act like the Falcons had a lot of positions figured out. Okay, they had the defense to figure out. Okay, they could have gotten an edge in Dallas Turner, who was mocked to them a lot.
Right.
They didn't get him.
I agree. And I'm not saying that was a great pick, but if they were going to do that, they needed to trade out of that 8th pick. They had to figure out a way to trade out of that 8th pick. And because they didn't, that's F all the way.
And like, we give him an F. It's not because of the player. It's the fact that he was chosen not just that early, but to a team that didn't need him. And it's like, my philosophy is, if Kirk Cousins somehow stinks up the joint in 2024, that means the team's going to be bad. There's quarterbacks next year. You have Shadur Sanders, you have Carson Beck, you have Quinn Ewers, and Drew Allar from Penn State. You have 4 guys you could get in the draft next year. There was no need to go get Penix.
No.
There's concerns with Penix. I'm not talking about
injury
history.
There are, and that's the reason why he was going later in the draft. We know this.
100%.
And so I don't want to sit there and pretend like he's a glowing, even though we both like him.
Yeah, of course.
But like you're saying, there was no reason to take him at number 8 whatsoever. There may not have been a reason to take him in at number 38, but at number 8, that's not smart.
Yeah, and I'm happy for him. I'm glad he got chosen at that position, because they do get paid more at that position compared to, if he was chosen at 38. At the same time, though, it's just a matter of when he's going to play. And if he has to wait 2 years, with how talented he is right now, I feel like the Falcons may be looked at as some sort of a joke, because Penix could start for me from day one. And the fact that he has to sit behind Kirk Cousins, who they paid $100 million plus to, just for him to have to look behind him, if he does something wrong.
And then you don't let him, I've never been an advocate of massaging players' egos or whatever, but they could at least give him a heads up that they were going to do that.
Exactly.
Because the next day, the lead story on ESPN, okay, Friday morning, as I wake up, I'm not on the West Coast, so I wake up at 5, and I know you're turning and tossing over there, but and the lead story is talking about how upset Kirk Cousins is. Not who was picked or where they were picked or any of that. But so you just call him up, say, hey, Kirk, we're just giving you a heads up, because and this is why we're doing it. And then he could go back to, playing ping pong or whatever it was he was doing, surfing, whatever it was. And then you don't have him and his agent belly aching in the newspaper the next day.
Sometimes that's how a franchise wants to roll. And it's good, Kev, that we're not a fan of the Falcons.
No, it's a very good thing. Okay. And so and it worked out for a couple of teams, actually, because Chicago, right? Rome.
Odunze, okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so he was there, and then Minnesota got J.J. McCarthy, and we're going to talk a little bit about our fantasy quarterbacks, but we'll save that for a minute. But Bo Nix to Denver, not a fan. Okay, not a fan.
Interesting.
That's another player. Maybe to Denver's okay, but I've lost faith in Sean Payton, and so okay. But that's another guy I think that they could have traded back a little bit and got some more draft capital. Okay, so we'll see about him. And so out of all these quarterbacks, we know, at least I do, Williams is number one.
Yes.
Who do you put in the number 2 spot?
Does situation matter, Kevin?
It does. Situation matters a lot.
I'm gonna say JJ McCarthy.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you at all.
And you know why though? You understand?
I know why. Because you've got two, JJ is thrown to another JJ. Okay. And so, and they've got not just JJ, right? They've got a tight end who has been an all pro. They've got a second year wide receiver over there who is talented.
Jordan Addison,
so,
correct?
Jordan Addison, that's right. And so he's got the weapons. Okay. I would maybe argue that Caleb has got the best weapons. Maybe. Okay. So, yes. So JJ McCarthy is definitely, especially in fantasy, if we're talking about fantasy. All right. And so JJ McCarthy to me comes in at number 2. And I know you talked about Drake May, who I liked maybe better than Williams as
Correct.
a quarterback
Yes,
prospect. Okay. But he's in a terrible, terrible, terrible position that who's he going to throw to?
Kendrick Bourne and Keyshawn Boutte.
Okay. Okay. If that's your answer, that's not good. All right. And I believed in Stevenson a year ago, and I actually drafted him in our belly up league. Chase and I did that, and it didn't work out well. So it's not a good scenario in New England. I know they took some players, and maybe they might be good. All right. But he's in the worst possible position to me out of all these guys. Because even Bo Nix has some weapons if he's the starter in Denver. And
which he will be, let's be honest.
Which he will be if Sean Payton's any kind of coach whatsoever, he'll be the starter. And so that brings up the question right here. In fantasy. Okay. And I'm going to let you answer this question because
fair enough.
I'm going to answer it because who would you take with the first overall pick in a fantasy draft that's dynasty and it's a super flex league? And I'm going to let you field this question because I happen to be the first person drafting this exact scenario. So I'll give you my answer, but I'm going to let you say what your answer would be first.
So the whole league, right? Rookies and veterans included, or just rookies?
No, just rookie draft.
Okay.
Who are you going to take first overall?
Screw it. I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. I can't. He is the clear wide receiver number 1. We have to factor in receptions and yards and touchdowns. He's going to be the main guy for Kyler Murray all season long in 2024. Caleb Williams is like right there. I love the fact that he has like 4 weapons he could throw to in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Odunze and Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. He is gonna be that guy. So I will go Harrison Jr., but Caleb is like right there.
Okay, so as I said, in our Belly Up Fantasy League that we just formed, all right, and just did our draft, and I don't really know why we have to do our rookie drafts the day after.
Okay? I have no idea either. Let's be honest.
Can we absorb some things? But anyway, I was the number 1 pick. Okay, and so you got to take into account. Okay, so it's a super flex league. First of all, so that means you're playing 2 quarterbacks in this scenario. And my third quarterback is Daniel Jones. Okay. And I know that you could speak. Yeah, see that look right there is what I'm talking about. Okay, that's not a
No,
comfortable
Kevin,
position. No,
no.
no. This is why I'm going to say this. Okay, no, comfortable with him being my number 3 quarterback. If someone gets hurt, my number 1 and number 2, and I got to slide Daniel Jones in there, how comfortable am I? Not. All right. So I went ahead and I was really, really tempted, like you're saying, because MHJ is the player to have. Okay. But I need a quarterback that I can have some confidence in. So I went ahead and took Williams first overall.
Good pick. I can't argue with it. I mean, he's gonna be a. You said it's a dynasty league. It's gonna happen for multiple years, and you get a guy who's gonna be a franchise guy for years to come. He has weapons all over the field, and I can't complain. I had the 3rd pick for spoiler alert in the draft that Kevin's talking about, and I went with. Who did I go with? Oh, I went Malik Neighbors because Harrison was off the board. Caleb was off the board. I could have gotten Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, but I was like, nah, I'll get me a Giant. Not just because he's a Giant, but he is going to be the wide receiver number 1 for the Giants. Plus, in that particular fantasy league, I think I have Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers as my 2 quarterbacks. So I think I feel confident.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
all right. So that's just, you got to take into account what kind of, is it super flex? If it's a 1 quarterback league, there's 0 chance I'd take anyone else but MHJ. But it really depends on your roster construction. That's right. Just what he's saying right there. And so my roster construction was weak at quarterback. So I went ahead and I took Williams first overall. So in this scenario, is J.J. McCarthy the number 2? We just talked about him a minute ago, but is he number 2 in fantasy dynasty as well? I'm not talking about overall, but quarterbacks.
in terms of, repeat the question if you don't mind.
The number 2 quarterback in Superflex dynasty leagues is in rookie.
J.J. McCarthy.
Okay. We are in total agreement on this right here. And so anything else that other than Michael Penix that you were like, I don't know about this?
From a quarterback perspective, no. I think Penix is the only question mark. I feel like all the other top 5 quarterbacks in the draft will have they either have the starting job or they're going to get the starting job sooner rather than later. Williams the starter, May the starter, McCarthy the starter, Daniels the starter, Bo Nix the starter as well.
Okay, so how about this question? Where in fantasy rookie drafts do you take Mr. Penix?
Oh, last round for sure. He's not going.
I guarantee you he won't be there in the last round. I guarantee you that.
Well, in the league that we're in,
so
it's like what 5-6 rounds. So
it's 5. It's 5 rounds.
I would go Penix in the 3rd because you have to consider it's a 10-person league. I would get him in the 3rd, 4th round. Is 5th it'll be surprising if he goes in the last round of your draft, but if it's 5 rounds and you want an exact number, I would say like 3 or 4.
I'm saying he's going off the board in the 2nd round. Not saying that's what I would do.
Really? Okay.
But somebody is going to do that. I guarantee you that. Okay? Because you might be thinking about, maybe you're in a team that's okay quarterback-wise, and so you can think ahead a little bit. And so you could, and this is what I did with Jordan Love. Okay? I drafted him, had him on my taxi squad for years and years and years, and then he started, and I put him on my roster, so that worked out very well. Okay. Not saying that's going to happen here, but that's the kind of scenario that if you are okay, because you're not drafting him for this year. You're not doing that, of course. Maybe not even next year. But and especially if you're in the fourth round and he's hanging around, you better take him. That's all I'll say about that.
Fair enough. What's other than that? I think that's pretty much all we got, right, Kev? Unless is there another topic we should discuss?
No, we could
Fantasy.
sit here for 6 days probably talking about all this, but I guess we need to move on to our prop bet.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's all you, Kev. What you got for me?
Okay, so let me just point out, I was a winner last week, so I am going to go to this prop bet is in tonight's game between, we talked about the Bucks and the Indiana Pacers. Okay. The prop bet is Tyrese Halliburton. And it's 17.5 points, over or under. I'm going over at -110. He's scored over that in his last 2 games. And as I mentioned, there's no Giannis, there's no Damian. So this is the game that he's going to be out there and he's going to be kicking butt. So I'm going over 17.5 points, Tyrese Halliburton. So if you are inclined to do so, I invite you to join me.
If you need a prop bet for tomorrow, I use Prize Picks personally for myself.
Okay.
There's a discount for James Harden. He is currently at 17.5 points.
I saw that.
Kawhi is not going to play, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's not going to play tomorrow.
It's as we talked earlier, it's up in the air. But if he does play, I think that might mess a little bit with your with the bet. If he doesn't play, I think that's a strong bet. What rookie quarterback goes first in redraft? I'm still going to say Williams. If a rookie quarterback is drafted at all.
I'll go Michael Pratt. No, I'm just playing. I'm going Caleb Williams from the Bears as well. Boxes 713 says I would take Daniels is what he meant. Yeah. You can make the argument, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, but I think our preference would just be Caleb Williams.
That's right. But I'm saying that's got to be a league that's double. Got 2 quarterback league or super flex.
That is true.
And 1 quarterback leagues, there's no rookie quarterbacks you need to be drafting. 0.
There's plenty of others, right, Kev?
That's right.
Of others, solid
plenty of others that you can, and I always advocate kind of waiting around a little bit for your quarterback. Don't be taking them in the first 3 rounds. That's you can get yourself a solid quarterback in, like, say, round 5.
Boxes says who plays 1 quarterback leagues?
I do.
I do too as well.
I do.
But
okay, go ahead.
I'm saying I do it because it's the only leagues that I've known. But I'm getting used to the whole super flex boxes 713. So I still play it, but I understand what you're asking. I'm getting used to the whole 2 quarterback leagues. But go ahead, Kev.
But the one guy that got me into fantasy in the first place, right? And I'm still in the league with him, right? And it's a redraft league and it's a 1 quarterback league, and it will be that way until Jesus returns, probably. Okay. But so in that scenario, like I'm saying, my home league is a 1 quarterback league. We all know in Dynasty that almost all Dynasty leagues are 2 quarterback or super flex. So that's a mute point right there. So
fair enough.
But at 1 quarterback leagues, don't draft a rookie quarterback. Don't do it.
Good advice. Well, that'll do it. 3rd episode of Piggin Out is in the books.
It's in the books. Woohoo!
Woohoo! I mean, we come to you guys like once a week anyway. So
we're bringing on the power. We appreciate you being here as we flex up a little bit, and we're glad to have you with us.
Of course, we appreciate you guys listening every Tuesday and watching with us, watching us talk sports and recap what happens in the past week. So whether it's NBA, baseball, NFL, sometimes hockey, maybe one day we'll do soccer. I have no clue, but
you might need to hook me up to a computer.
Yeah,
and transfer that into my veins, because my soccer knowledge is not going to fill any books. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I tell you, my soccer knowledge is pretty low too. But at the end of the day, we're just glad you guys are watching us and listening to
Yeah.
us, whether
So
the
if
audio
you're
version.
listening and you have a suggestion of a topic to cover, throw it to us.
Put it in the comment section.
That's right.
Easiest way to do it.
That's right.
Join us live during the show. We always love to put comments on the YouTube live to for us. Any questions you guys have for us, we'll always answer. You guys are never ignored.
Never.
I always have it because if I was in the same situation, I want my question answered too. So
that's right. If we're not going to do that, why are we doing this?
Hey, amen to that, Kev.
That's right.
Before we go, Boxes 713 says I drafted Stroud with my last pick. Ooh.
Okay. Well, props to you. Okay.
Smart
move. Big time props to you because that was a move that paid huge
dividends.
Huge. But generally, no. Because if let's say you'd flipped that and you said you took Bryce Young, you'd have been in the ditch.
Yeah. So see, smart move to get Stroud instead of Bryce Young. So maybe not all number one overall picks are the answer.
Let me just throw this one last thing in because there were 6 quarterbacks taken in this draft. In 1983, there were 6 quarterbacks taken in that draft. Okay, Dan Marino was one of them. John Elway was another one, and Jim Kelly was another one. All 3 Hall of Famers. The other ones, not so much. And Dan Marino was the last quarterback drafted that year. So just keep that in mind that because some of these guys aren't going to be what they are hoped to be. Right? We're not that far removed from Mitchell Trubisky being taken over.
Ooh.
Right? And if you're a Bear, my brother's a Bears guy. And I know that he's at work, so he's not watching us right now. But if he watched us later, it'll give him, one of those where you're bleeding and have a bleeding ulcer. Okay? Because they took Mitchell Trubisky and they could have had the biggest star quarterback of our this generation right here. And
Patrick Mahomes.
That's right. Because he went, 7 picks later, I believe it was.
Yep.
Okay.
7 or 8 picks.
Something like that. So that's all I'm saying. Don't be thinking all these guys are going to, blow the doors off the place because chances are they will not.
Amen to that. All righty. Well, that'll do it. We will see you guys next Tuesday. We'll give you coverage on the second round of the NBA playoffs. We'll
That's right.
See if some NFL news comes about.
Sparks up. That's right.
Yeah. And then baseball. Maybe next week we'll talk some Dodgers because
Dodgers,
Ohtani.
Okay.
I love Ohtani. Who doesn't?
Okay. Yeah. Has there been a superstar that's more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost impossible not to like him.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
It's hard to. For sure.
I know that people want to hate on him because of, what he did when he signed, and all that. But apart from that, he's the guy that does it all. He does it right. He trusts too many people, obviously.
Oh,
but on the field, off the field, he carries himself like few ever have.
Phenomenal guy. We'll discuss him on the Dodgers next week, likely, and then we'll go from there. Kevin, as always, thank you, sir. Thank you guys.
It's always a pleasure. It's always fun. We kick some, just kick the tires and see if there's, do the tires, do they have tread on them? Or are they bald or what? But so it's always fun.
Yes, sir, it is. And we thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. And look out for clips of our show throughout the week. Have a good one, boys and girls.
Right. Have a great week.